Bitcoin is backed by $20 billion worth of semiconductors and hardware and energy. And then, Yo-Yo coin number 97 was ginned up in the basement of some dude in some place that is located behind a Tor node. And you just don't even know who that is. And so if you're a mainstream investor, the Charlie Mungers and the Warren Buffetts of the world, they're not going to dig into this. They're just going to read something and they come to a very quick conclusion. And like it or not, people with less knowledge than you have more money than you. And the market is dominated by them. So you want to see more corporate adoption, right? You need the FDIC, the Fed, Treasury, the SEC, CFTC, they all need to move forward. FASB has a big role to play. And the good news here is everything I just named is highly predictable. It will happen. It's just a question of does it happen in 6 months, 36 months, right? 60 months, right? And you have to decide. Well, the nation was founded by people that were looking for freedom and property rights, and that's why they left Europe. At one point, my family came from Lucerne, Switzerland. They were Palatines, and I think at some point Protestants in Catholic Europe couldn't own a job or own property or have a job, and so they came to America. And then, of course, the opposite is a bunch of Catholics from Northern Europe had to come to America for the opposite reason. So the American dream was always go west, get property, live your life, live happily ever after. And after we all got here to Virginia, if we were Protestant, or to Maryland if we were Catholic, or to Pennsylvania if we were neither but Quaker. After we got here and it got too crowded, everybody went west again, right? To the Great West, to Wyoming, and they wanted land. And now the world is just full of people, and you can't go west anymore. So, and we can't really all go to outer space because space travel is too expensive. So where we can go is we can go to cyberspace. And what if you want, or if what you want is the American dream, you want property rights and freedom and sovereignty, then you can move your life force, your life savings, your economic energy, your property into cyberspace, where you might have the hope for freedom and sovereignty and truth and a decent life. And that's the American dream. If you roll the clock back to March of 2020, when everything drew down, Bitcoin was like 4,500 a coin. If you look, when I had no interest in Bitcoin before the second quarter of 2020, and in the second quarter of 2020, I was really disturbed by COVID, the K-shaped recovery, the impending hyperinflation I could see coming, and I was looking for an inflation hedge, and I had $500 million to invest. And I actively decided, I said, should I buy gold? Should I buy the S&P index? Should I buy Amazon or Apple? Amazon stock was trading higher then than it is now. The NASDAQ ended up trading the same then as it is now. Gold was trading higher then than it is now. And we rifled through that, and we decided to buy Bitcoin as the digital gold. It's basically all the promise of gold without the defects on a big tech network that's exploding. To make a long story short, Bitcoin is up since our first acquisition 150%. And if you trace it, you'll find that the S&P is up 17%. The money supply expanded 18%. So the S&P index tracked the money supply linearly. Bitcoin ran much faster in the last 18 months. Gold is down. Gold did not actually monetize. I mean, gold is dead money. And if you love gold, I apologize, but ultimately the velocity of gold is 1,000,000 times slower than Bitcoin. Is not a technology. It's never going to get smarter, faster, stronger because of a computer chip. And anything that is not getting smarter, faster, stronger because of computer technology, right, is probably not a good investment in the last 20 years. So Bitcoin already decoupled from the market. Now it's chopping with a lot of volatility, but over a 2-year, 4-year, 6-year, 8-year time frame, it's a winner. And if you look at it and your metrics are always 4-year smooth moving averages, then I think you're fine. if you try to actually figure out what it's going to do in 4 weeks, 4 months, 4 days, or 4 hours, you're going to give yourself an apoplectic fit. Just no. Well, I mean, the first principle is that Satoshi's invention of Nakamoto consensus gave us a fair, equitable, ethical mechanism to create a digital commodity. If I wanted to create a block of digital energy, people say, what is Bitcoin backed by? Well, it's actually backed by energy. In fact, an encrypted energy, or a SHA-256 digitized energy. And there's $20 billion worth of Bitcoin miners that are protecting and creating that energy right now. If you replace all the semiconductors and all the energy that's creating the Bitcoin and protecting the network with imaginary validators and imaginary nodes, you get imaginary security on imaginary asset, and from a legal point of view, that becomes a security, which is a problem legally. But from a practical point of view, it's no longer a scarce commodity, it's a plentiful security. You end up with 20,000 copies, and then everybody that creates one breaks off and creates another one, because why wouldn't you just keep creating copies of something which is easy to cut and paste? So the fundamental premise of Bitcoin is I use energy and semiconductors in order to create something, a block of digital energy, which will last forever, which is immortal, indestructible, which you can move at the speed of light, right? We're digitizing energy. The reason that the energy usage is not a bad thing is because, first of all, it's really digital energy. You're feeding in 0.1% of the civilization's energy to create something which will last forever, which is indestructible. It's just not that much when you think about it, 0.1% of energy to create something which could be the basis of the entire financial system of the world, right? But the second reason that it's not really a problem is the 0.1% of the energy is all marginal stranded waste energy that you couldn't really use for any other purpose anyway. It's basically wholesale stranded energy, generally paid for at like 2 cents a kilowatt hour. And if you study energy, you know that the retail rates for industries and people are 10 to 20 cents a kilowatt hour. The entire network is running on a thimble full of energy at the edge of the grid that nobody else wants. And we're recycling that stranded, wasted energy into digital energy, which will last forever, move at the speed of light, and you can build any number of beautiful, elegant things on top of it, right, with no friction. And so, why wouldn't you want to do that? I mean, some people think like Bitcoin benefits from anarchy or lack of regulation. That's not true. In fact, I think Ken Griffin said this last week, the CEO of Citadel. He said the entire industry deserves clarity. We need to understand what's a security. We need to understand what's a currency. We need to understand what's a commodity. And if the SEC